And that storm actually has a definite hook echo in it, and that's usually where
Oh,
tornadoes live is when hook echoes. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, I hope they're okay, but it's actually right to the north of Lisbon.
I hope Casey Usatis got some gas in his truck
I
because
hope
he
so
said
too.
he was out on a
I
gravel
hope so
road
too.
and half a tank. He's like, you can't tell, but this whole area is rotating. I'm like, I'm jealous, but slightly
Crazy.
concerned.
Ah.
Agreed.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track
Sending.
Packers podcast for episode
We're not
12
ready
of
yet.
season 3. As we are in the midst of
Oh,
some
that's kind of
interesting
a pretty one
weather
on the
going
interstate.
on, and I'm ignoring John down on my left side, we are here with the entire cast of characters, myself, Mason, the Pelkeys, and Mr. John Brecko with the stare of ages into the
Is that the white
camera.
flag or is that a glare?
I don't
I
know.
can't see. My eyes are blinded by the light.
I
It's
don't
the moon
know, but
landing.
there's definitely not any sunshine going on right now where we're currently at, or where I'm currently at least. As
Well,
always, we
that's
got to thank,
normal.
yeah, it's normal for me. We have to thank our presenting sponsor, Hitch Harness, and Tyler Hall, who got to go over to the Dakota Speedway this last weekend for the Ironman 100. So nice to see him putting out some miles and traveling a little bit. Be sure to go over to the website, hitchharness.com, and check out the products they have. The signature product is the Hitch Harness, which is focused on efficient and safe storage for your receiver hitches in the back of the truck. We always preach safety. This is a very safe and efficient product that you can use if you're a truck owner. So be sure to check out the styles that fit your needs. And you can also check out the other products such as pull bar brackets, chassis dollies, things to make life easier in the race shop. And so thank you, Tyler, as always, for your support of the Track Packers podcast. And so to the lineup, which is basically a reverse almost of last week, we have Jessup Pelkey on the pole. Actually, it's an all Pelkey front row with Jessup on the inside, Beck on the outside, Mr. John Breckel, and I'm bringing up the rear this week. So, Mr. Jessup, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing very good, Mason. It was a pretty nice weekend. Got a lot of stuff done. Main goal of my life right now is happy, happy wife, happy life. Keep her happy. And right now she's a little tooty Judy, but she's getting through it.
You know, we all have
I
those
received
times.
news before we podcasted, and I worked so freaking hard behind the scenes in a lot of different ways at different racetracks, in dirt track racing, and to hear my hard work kind of get negated by
I'm
individuals, it
morons.
just pisses me
Yeah.
off. So I got some upsetting news before we podcasted, and I'm a little bit perturbed.
And
Got
just
my
think, it is just
back.
now finally June, and we're already having some interesting shenanigans in the racing world.
Yeah, but everything's good here. We moved about 2,000 pounds of brick today, tinkered with the baby's room yesterday before going to Jamestown. Everything nice little weekend.
So you literally moved a ton of bricks.
Literally.
Nice.
We found out the capacity of my truck bed. Now that's where do you think Tyler will make me a brick harness for my truck bed?
I'm sure if you asked him, he probably could fashion that up in some way.
I bet he could. Hey, it was really good seeing him over at our track. I didn't get a chance to stop down and say hi, but it was always fun to see the 60 pull into the pits.
Yeah, we'll kind of get into that a little bit later because you guys had a really nice field of a modified show up for that race. So that was really cool to see.
Yep.
John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm having my animal cracker snack. This is so I don't become so miserable. And besides that, no, today has been a very nice day. I've got some racetrack stuff done. I have prepared for the next week. I'm going to do a little bit of work here later on tonight. And it is going to be a full set of racing action this week across the state. I know there is, so we're actually taping on a Sunday, which never happens, but a lot of the tracks around the state canceled here on this lovely weather day we're having. So we're thinking of the people over by Jamestown because they're having a lot of flooding right now over by Jamestown and Valley City and kind of the rural areas of Sussex County as they've got some big thunderstorms that have been coming through. That's what's keeping us fascinated over here in Bismarck. And besides that, I'm ready for next week racing action.
Yeah, this week especially is going to be very, very busy, especially out west, and we'll discuss that a little bit later as well. I'm doing way better than I was this morning. I just ran the Fargo Marathon yesterday, which went really well, and so very happy to kind of get that behind, and had a little bit of racing in between there. So today was going to be a rest day, unless like something weird happened with the weather and against the forecast. But this is the medal. Like this is a huge honking medal.
Cool medal.
Yeah, 20th anniversary. So it was definitely a special race. And
Ooh.
so nice to get that done. And now I get to have fun the rest of the summer and focus on racing. And so just resting up for today. And like John said, we're recording on Sunday because we got racing taking place as early as Tuesday. So you folks get a treat and get an early dose of the track package for this week. Which, speaking of, if you haven't, we've gotten a lot of new followers and a lot of new people checking out the podcast. Be sure to like and follow if you haven't been already, and share with other people who may find our content interesting. Spotify, Google, and Apple is where you can listen to us if you don't like to look at our bright, shining faces. And be sure to give us a 5-star review so that one day, Jessup can read that 5-star review on the podcast. So with that, we'll get right into it as we have a ton to talk about with the waving or drop of the green flag, as John actually threw the green flag last week that I saw. We'll start with Jessup. What are you repping?
Well, Mason, we got a treat for the fans tonight. This is a shirt that we can all have a little laugh at now at the expense of my health. I am wearing the same shirt that I wore on the night that I broke my arm. I am wearing the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. I believe this is 2014. Jay Symes graphic design. And it looks really sharp. I think it's amusing because, well, I broke my arm in it. And it's also a good day to kind of rep the old Dakota Classic Mod Tour as they made some big announcements for this year. And yeah, kind of a cool deal. They're going to go back to the drop a night rule. Yeah, kind of interesting that they're going to do that. Hopefully that works out for them. See how that all goes this year.
Excellent. Yep. I mean, it's fun to look back on now, even though that wasn't a totally fun ordeal that you went through, but good memories. Good memories.
I mean, there were so
Great
many funny
memories.
moments from that. There was one, me falling and breaking my arm in front of a grandstand that's about 90% full. And everyone was cheering when I got up, not realizing I broke my arm. And then there was us sitting, Becca driving me to the hospital as she's panicking the whole time. I'm sitting there answering complaints by individuals who are complaining to the track on Facebook and saying how this is the worst thing in their lives. And I was like, we're trying really hard. And I looked at Becca and said, I'm trying to be really hard to be a good camper in all of this.
We should clarify, we tried a new format last year during the Gov Cup, and the fans were not a fan of that new format. So thankfully, we're not doing that format of qualifying for our B mains and features this year. So.
And then when we got to the hospital, Becca was all ready to sprint into the ER to get it taken care of. And she's like, we got to go. And I'm like, no, let's just take a moment. And she's like, but your arm's broken. I'm like, it's going to still be broken when we go in there. But I need to make fantasy picks. I need to take full advantage of this time and at least get my picks done for the night.
Yes, because he never really like he always had to have someone else do his job so that he could get his picks done. And so since he didn't have to worry about his duties, he had all free reign to make all those picks.
This
It
is
was
so
nice.
true. This is like 110% true.
There
And
was
then we,
one time he went on a bachelor party. One of our friends was getting married, so they had a boys'
oh
trip
yeah,
in Edwood, and there was no service down there. Guess who had to on not only try to make her own picks for fantasy, but log into his My Race Pass account and make picks for him.
you did all right that night.
I couldn't believe that she actually did good for you. If that would have been me, I
I'd
would have
still
picked
get
it by
points though,
far the
John.
worst option in each one of those groups and gave it to you.
I would still get points. That's better than nothing.
So as long as they start the feature, you're not too out of the loop. So that's pretty much what you got to hope for in that case.
And then I probably
Hey,
would have missed random groups. I would just be like, oh yeah, I missed them.
we made it back for the last feature of the night. All I wanted to see
Hmm.
was the sprint cars, and all I got to see that night was the sprint cars.
Well, there you go. Mission accomplished. Cool trip down memory lane. We'll move over to Becca Pelkey. Who or what are you repping?
I was actually going to wear this shirt last week on the podcast, but then I got a special custom made shirt, which is what I wore on last week's episode. But this week I am representing the 99B of Brady Biella, the Boomtown Bullet. So I actually got this shirt last year, and I've been just waiting to wear it, and was gonna wear it last week, which would have been great going into the Ironman 100, which he had a fantastic showing the first half of the race. But on the back, let's take a look. Just a very nice, clean, sharp looking shirt.
I like those simple shirts.
Plus, it's getting a little bit tight, so I had to wear it this week. Otherwise, I don't think I would have fit into it soon. So, as everyone's been making a point to tell me that, oh, you're popping, and I mean, getting a little bump now. So, kind of sort of showing that I'm actually pregnant, but I just still think I just look fat. But that's just my own personal thing to go through. So, yeah.
Well, cool shirt. I like that it's different from the normal shirts that we normally see repping drivers. So,
Yeah.
awesome. We'll move to John Breckel. Who or what are you repping?
Well, so this next weekend is going to be a big weekend in Jamestown for the Gumke Memorial Race. So I am repping the last year's shirt for the Gumke Memorial. So it is the 2023 Gumke Memorial Racing shirt, as it's got the drivers that they raced in memory on down there on the bottom for the Gumke Memorial. And this year will be year number 5 of the Don Gumke Racers Memorial over in Jamestown on this upcoming Saturday. And it will also be night 4 of the Legendary Legends Tour. So we'll get into more of that as we come up here with our schedule events from, race fans, Dakota Dirt, the one-stop shop of everything racing. So we'll talk about that here later on in the episode.
Now, I just have a quick question on your shirt, and this may be a silly question, but that modified on there, was that an actual paint scheme that Don had, or is that just kind of a conglomeration of schemes?
That's just the colors that they put on the shirt.
Okay, I'm like, I don't remember that scheme, so
Nope, never an actual paint scheme.
okay, just wanted to make sure on that. That's a really cool shirt. I guess I didn't pay too far of attention to the shirts that they had last year, because that's a really cool shirt.
Yeah, see, you missed out, Mason. You just were there late, probably again like normal, and then you were probably rushing because you probably brought bad weather with you. And then and then you just never got a shirt.
Well, it was a tour night, so usually those I'm early for, but I probably was not focused on shirts at that point. Actually, was that no, that wasn't a double tour night. That was just streets, I think. Okay. Because those double tour nights are hectic, but thankfully we don't have too many of those. Anyways, I'll finish off who or what are we repping. Repping a birthday boy today for the hat, Braden Brown, the 34 junior with Soda Street Stock. It is his birthday today. I believe he's turning 20 years old, so happy birthday, Braden. He's had a great weekend of racing. Actually, I think his weekend just finished up, unfortunately, with Granite City, I think, just rained out. So the koozie, which I forgot to mention last week, this is of former hobby stock driver Kevin Twighton, number 31, raced kind of in the mid-2010s. Picked up several feature wins up at the Nodak Speedway, and he had a really cool yellow, white, and black looking hobby stock. And so repping that for the koozie. And for the shirt, I am repping the Nightmare Lucas Rodin, number 19. This, I believe, is his 2017 shirt. So a few years old. He's racing WSOTA Midwest Mod and a WSOTA Modified this year, and he actually had a pretty solid weekend over at Fergus Falls, and we'll kind of touch on those results in a little bit, but getting the hang of that WSOTA Modified, because he's been racing more in the IMCA Modifieds over the last few years along with his Midwest Modified, but he decided to transition everything over to a WSOTA Modified, and he's actually looked pretty dang good so far to start the 2024 season. So that is who and what we are repping for episode 12 of season 3. And now we transition over into our other history segment with the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind, thanks to our good friend Issac Hot Sauce Sondrol in the 12S machine. He's been racing this weekend as well. I believe he's over in Dickinson. I don't remember, was he in Mandan on Friday? No. Okay, so he was Dickinson, and he's racing currently right now at the Nodak Speedway up in Minot. So plenty of racing action for Hot Sauce this weekend.
And he tried a new job. He was an announcer on Thursday night over at the McLean County Speedway in Underwood, and did very, very nice.
Yeah, that was a nice change of pace. I think that's a really cool role for Issac, because he's really good. He can banter a little bit, and yeah, that would have been fun to listen to up in the stands in Underwood. But be sure, if you see him in the pits, check him out. Check out the Sondrol Snack Chat for all the goodies that they have. And yeah, just one of the nicest guys to talk to. Becky, do you have something to add on that?
I was going to say, I believe he is planning to co-announce with Nick Hultberg on the Tougher Than Dirt Tour when they stop in Underwood this week. So if you want to get some extra insight that only Issac can provide, because he is a driver himself, that would be a great opportunity to hit up the Underwood track.
Anyways, thank you once again, Issac, for supporting us on the podcast, and looking forward to hearing you on the mic here this upcoming weekend. So I'll turn the floor over to Jessup. I do have a bonus addition to this segment, so go ahead and start it off.
It's got a bonus. Ooh.
All right. Well, now that they stalled long enough for me to remember to pick out a handful of photos, John, you know the rules. You gotta name the driver, name the year. All the photos should be from the same year. This week we're gonna go in a different class. We're gonna get out of late models. We're gonna go back to super stocks.
Put those cards up a little bit closer. Perfect. Let me take a couple pictures here. You guys are catching on to that too, I hope, right?
Yep.
Yes.
That's even better.
Can you read them?
Yes.
I read one of them.
Well,
the number 90.
That one's going away. No.
Okay, that was pretty comical. That was pretty great.
Oh, that's actually a sharp looking car. Okay, let's do that one.
I thought Beck was the blonde one here.
Yeah, all right, it's good. This one looks fun. All right, you ready, John?
Yes, super stocks. I am excited for this.
All right, this first one should be pretty easy. This is
That is Kurt Myers.
very good. 1 for 1. Ready for number 2, John?
Yes. That is Blake Jetving.
2 for 2.
And it had the year on the bottom of the photo, so that was even better.
Dang it.
Royce Jalowski.
Oh,
And that also had the year on the bottom of it.
actually, well,
I am killing it tonight.
All right.
Kenny Davis.
Wow.
Since you're cheating.
That's impressive, though. I would have gotten the Royce Jaworski one, because that one was pretty. It's similar to his other schemes.
85. Is
Yeah, now what do you...
that's John Canta, isn't it?
Nope. Wrong, mother trucker.
That one I don't know. Leon Plank?
Nope. We got to get back to super stocks.
What number was Kevin Pappenfuss?
He was 90 and 10, and he also was a triple digit number too. He was
I was just going
110,
off
I
of
think.
I was going off the cheater
This
one that I
is
saw earlier.
this is Doug Pudwell.
Oh, Doug Pudwell.
Oh.
I would have never guessed that. Because Doug is still racing.
Yep. So, what was the year, John?
2008.
What?
2006.
No.
I said
Oh,
that Kurt Myers one
for
looked way
Pug,
too old.
for Pugwells or for the rest of them?
All of them. They're all from
Well,
the same
hold
year.
up Jet Wings again. And move your thumb.
Okay, hold on.
And your finger. And zoom out.
It was 2003.
Okay.
All right.
Mason, where's your bonus?
All right. I have two of them. This first one should be pretty easy for the Pelkeys.
John
The
Canta.
Pelkeys have to answer these.
I can't see that.
I can help if you guys need help.
John.
John.
Tony
Same
Marsh.
Oh, it's Tony Marsh. Oh, that's cool.
No, Tony Marsh. Okay. This other one. Your hints are same number, different class, still races today.
11.
Oh, I
Same
know.
number. Steve Pfeiffer.
Bingo.
Oh, go Jessup. Go Jessup. Go Jessup.
Can you guess the year on this Stephen Pfeiffer one?
That's
I'm sorry.
stop moving. That's a new style Monty. I'll go 2012.
2012. By that time, Steve had moved to.
I
think
don't
he
know
actually
these
moved back
things.
to
I
Fargo,
wasn't around.
or he was back to
2008?
Minot. He was in Fargo for a while.
Before my time.
2008?
Yes, it was before Becca's time. So Becca, do you have a guess?
Mason, is that 90? I'll guess. Is that 99?
It is 99.
Okay.
Which I believe is the last year that they actually had with Soda Street Stocks at the Nodak Speedway before they transitioned over to IMCA stock cars in 2000.
Steven Pfeiffer had a really, really sweet looking 11 red was Soda Street stock back in the day.
Yeah, he did. I have a card of that. I'll probably put that in the podcast here. It was really cool looking.
It was really, really, really nice looking. And honestly, let's see here. I might be able to find it because
On his cheater site.
on my cheater site, I might be able to find this to see if I can get it. I think it was in 2000. It was either 2000 or 2001. But yeah, the car was really, really, really nice looking.
Well, it was an interesting time because when Nodak was kind of switching, you had all the Minot area drivers that were still coming down to Dakota Speedway and racing quite a bit as they were transitioning. And so it was kind of a good mix of Minot drivers coming down on a weekly basis. I never got to kind of see that Dakota Speedway during those years, but definitely a solid field. There we go. Right there.
It's 2000 with Soda Street stock.
That is
Zoom
very
in.
nice.
More zoom.
And this one.
Ooh, that's a familiar one.
That does look familiar.
And then this one.
I want to start a series on like where are they now? So like Dave Roweter. That'd be a good one to figure out what the heck he's up to these days.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Jessica, did you even see the Row Weeder car?
Let's see. That one?
Yes.
Nice.
That was an iconic paint scheme for Dave Roweter for years in the 90s, late 90s to early 2000s before he started going more on the kind of he went red for a couple years, and then he went back yellow for many years, and then his last year in the streets, he went directly as a blue paint scheme for his championship year in 2007.
Yeah, there's some nice looking throwback schemes there. It'd be fun to see some of those come out.
I would agree. And look at us having the shareability, everybody. Yay!
We are sharing. We are
Now
so
that I
good.
finally figure out how to do it. Awesome. Well, that is our hot sauce hot memory rewind for episode 12 of season 3. And we will move on into the track packer report, which for you race fans out there, this is probably one of the first and only weeks where the Pelkeys and John were at a racetrack more than yours truly. And so they have a
Don't worry,
lot.
Mason. We're going to do it again next week, too.
Well, yeah, no
Me and
problem.
John are
More
going to
places.
throw down.
Yeah, it's a high likelihood you'll be at more places than I will be. So kick it off to Thursday, which John made his way up to the McLean County Speedway for their season opener. Tell us about how that went.
Well, they had a good field of cars. They ended up with 87 total cars at Underwood on Thursday. They actually had a little bit of weather in the morning, but it was fine. They had a lot of wind on Thursday night. It was pretty windy. There was actually pretty chilly in the grandstand side on Thursday. But no, they had the trophy class running. They did the wingless sprints, and then they had their IMCA Sport Compacts, the IMCA Sport Mods, the IMCA Stock Cars. The Legends were one of their classes throughout the night as well. So they had a very nice field of cars there during their season opener. And here is how basically the results went. So starting in your trophy class, they actually had a very, very nice field of 5 cars. And your winner in the trophy class was Bruce Rutland, and he was running the Adam Goth 30A stock car. So you had Russ John also in there. He was testing his car for the Enduro that Saturday. So he was also in that event as well. They moved on to their wingless sprints, and that race was kind of a fun one up front. It was a battle of the Tomlinsons. Miles and his dad, Mike. Miles came on top, picked up his first of two wins for the weekend, as he also won over there at the Devil's Lake Speedway on Saturday. Ross Cummings was third, as Mike was second, and then it was Dusty Lawson and Brennan Wise. It was right there in the top 5. Then they moved into their IMCA hobby stock division, and that race was very entertaining, as Tyler Saturn actually got called for a caution. He was battling up there in about that second, third position range and got called for a caution, went to the back and drove his way back up to second. And it was kind of closing in on Caden Appel towards the end, but Caden Appel won. Tyler was second. Brennan Grinstead was third. Then it was Trevor Haas and Thomas Goldsberry was your top 5. After that feature, we moved on to your next class, which was your IMCA Sport Compacts. And the Sport Compacts had 13 total cars, and they had a lot of action. Actually, this was a really good race up front. There was a lot of 2 to 3 wide racing, basically in the top 5. And it was between the Eubanks, both Brian and Zach. You also had Benjamin Burke right up there. You had Chris Yost right up there. And a great run out there to Abby Tellman. She ran very well, and she finished actually in the top 4. So good job to Abby out there in the 14 machine. But Zach Eubanks eventually got the lead from his dad, and he never looked back. He was roughly about probably 2 to 3 car lengths ahead of a really good battle for second between both Benjamin Burke and Chris Yost. Those two would actually switch lines each lap. So one would go high, one would go low. Then they would go side by side, and somebody would pass out of turn 4, and then they would switch again in turns 1 and 2 and do the same thing the next lap. So Benjamin Burke was second, Chris Yost was third, Abby finished 4th, and Brian Eubanks was in the top 5. Next class after that was your Legends. They had the largest car count of the night of 21 cars. And that race was kind of a battle of cautions to begin with. And then they ran pretty much clean and green for the rest of the race. There was definitely some lap cars that made that race very interesting, as they were lapped multiple laps, sometimes even multiple times in a lap. So the race itself was Austin Weist up front with Noah Madler, Bryce Barnhart, Gage Madler, and Dustin Hagen. Those guys were kind of your front markers for most of that race. Austin started second, took the lead on the green flag through turns 1 and 2, and never looked back. He picked up the future win for his second on the season. Noah Madler got by Bryce Barnhart late and kind of tracked down Austin a little bit, but didn't have anything for Austin as the laps wound down. Noah was second, Bryce Barnhart was third, Gage Madler was fourth, and Preston Martin, who caused a caution in his heat race, started tail end of the field and worked his way up to fifth at the finish line, was in your top five. Dustin Hagen was sixth. Then it was Maverick Nelson, Andy Bargman, Dean Brecht, and Jake Windsor. Those were your top 10 finishers. So good race in your legends. Moving on now to your IMCA Northern Sport Mods, and that was a very entertaining race too because you had Robbie Roselli and Sean Keena that were kind of pulling away from most of the field. It was a very interesting race to watch them because the lines were definitely changing. It was kind of to the bottom, and then they moved to the top, and then they moved back to the bottom. The guy that was on the move though was Gabe Deshaw. Gabe had some problems in his heat race. He pulled off. He looked like he wasn't under full power, almost like mechanical / electrical issues. And got those worked out and worked his way from 12th to second in the feature event. Cole Hanshu had a great run, finishing in third. Sean Kino was fourth, and Christopher Zenz was your top five in your sport mods. And to end the night, it was your stock car division. And there was some beating and banging in your stock cars. So they definitely had some carnage within your stock cars as well. So a driver that's making his return to racing is William Mason. How do you say the last name?
Matajovic.
Matajovic was right there, and Matajovic took the lead to begin with. He was ahead for quite some time until Jorn Boy started making his way to the front. Adam Goff started making his way to the front. Goff actually caused a caution. He had to go tail in and came back through the field. But the guy that was up there too with him was Bob Fugman and then also Michael Swallers. Those guys were kind of right in that lead battle for the lead. Will Sheretsky, though, was making his way to the front, and Will was muscling his way to the front. And he got to the bottom of Will. They made contact out of turn two. It cut down Will's tire. He got called for the caution, went pit side, changed the tire, came back out, and finished sixth. After that, though, it was all Sheretsky up front. Sheretsky won over Jordan Boyce, Adam Goth, Logan Schmitz, and Alex Braun. So that's where your finish was. Matajovic came back up to sixth. So he ended up in the top six here for your stock cars. But yeah, a very entertaining night in McLean. It was a lot of fun being back out at the racetrack, spending time in the pit area a little bit and talking to some of the drivers, visiting with some of the crew there at McLean County Speedway. And just a good start to their season with 87 cars in the pits. And they race now this upcoming Tuesday as night one of the Tougher Than Dirt Tour and the Legendary Tour for the NX Legends. And I will be there again.
Yeah, and I saw they did a lot of improvements around the facility too, so that's really cool to see as well.
It really was. They actually moved the front entrance to the grandstands. So, it kind of had been between that tree row. You kind of walked in through there. They actually paved a little bit of it and moved it over to almost where the concession stand is at with where kind of that front gate is. So you actually walk in, you pay, and then you walk down the concrete right to the grandstands. So that part was pretty nice.
That'll be cool to see for a lot of the new fans that have come this week too, because they'll get a lot of good fans coming for that tour this week. Excellent. So thanks for the update on McLean County Speedway's opener. Helkies, you were at Test and Tune. I'll kind of let you take this, like Test and Tune and heading into the Friday night at Ironman. Kind of give us a rundown, I guess, of the 2 days in Mandan.
I'll go first, Becca, and then you can take Friday. Now, Mason, on Thursday we had Test and Tune, and there were cars there who tested and tuned. On to you, Becca.
And it went smoothly.
It did.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, technically, that was only, the third night of action the track has seen this year so far?
Yes. At that point, we had more Test and Tunes than races.
This is true.
Yikes.
Crazy how the season has been for Dakota Speedway thus far, but thankfully, Friday was finally a Friday with no rain in the forecast. Although rain did try to ruin my parade, it did not. The rain actually went around. It popped up out of nowhere, but it went around Dakota Speedway, and we were actually finally back at the track at Dakota Speedway for the first time since May 10th. So, so Dakota Speedway hosted Ironman 100. In the years past, this had been a 2-day show, Friday, Saturday, primarily for the IMCA Modifieds. But this year, in a revamped format, it was just the Dakota Speedway Hobby Stocks, IMCA Stock Cars, and IMCA Modifieds. Very impressive field of IMCA Modifieds. 33 drivers showed up to compete for the 100-lap feature and $5,000 prize. We had 12 12 stock cars and 21 hobby stocks. Starting with the first feature of the night. What?
She corrected herself. She's good.
She did, John. She's okay.
We were getting ready. We were both getting ready. Jessup and I were.
Oh, I corrected myself. I'm sorry.
Yep, you're good.
Anyway, in the first feature of the night, it was the hobby stock feature. It was a caution-plagued feature, but it was unfortunate because the battle up front was spectacular between pole sitter Chad Hassauer, Kelly Horner, Bill Hulperich, and Jeremy Engelhardt. And those cautions just really mixed up the top four each restart that we had. But on the final restart with about 10 laps to go, stop it, John. On the final restart with about 10 laps to go, Kelly Horner got one impressive restart on Chad Hassauer, and Hassauer really battled back, but unfortunately he got a little bit, you would say, tight. He got a little high in corners 1 and 2, which allowed Kelly Horner just to run away with that feature victory and pick up the win for Ironman 100 in the hobby stock division. So I also want to give a quick shout out to Brody Michelson, who had another impressive run up in near the front. Unfortunately, I think it's just being new behind the wheel, not knowing exactly what the limits are with the race car. But he was running top 5, holding his own. But unfortunately, he looped it off corner 2, and his night was ended early for him. But very impressive start for that youngster, because that was only his 3rd race behind the wheel, and he had an impressive run in Jamestown the week prior until bad luck found him, and then here he was a man down, a 3rd race behind the wheel, running up front once again, doing very well, holding his own until just inexperience, I think, got the best of him. And just want to give him a quick shout out, because I've been awfully impressed so far with that young man. So moving on to the IMCA stock cars, we used passing points all weekend. So Hunter Damagala, who's had great success in the Wissota Street Stocks, new to IMCA stock cars, he was your pole sitter for the IMCA stock car feature. He had a nice healthy lead when the green flag waved, but as the race progressed, it was a 40-lap race for the IMCA stock cars, and as that race progressed, you saw 2nd place Sean Strands just slowly reeling in Hunter Damagala, and and at the very end of that race, Sean was right there, and he was going high, he was going low, he was trying anything to get around that 97 car, and it looked like Sean was about to take the lead when a caution came out with about 6 laps to go. And that caution just erased all of Sean Strand's momentum. That put Hunter Damagala on the front row by himself for the Delaware double file restart. And Hunter, although Sean gave him a run for the money, Hunter was your feature winner in the IMCA stock cars, picking up a $500 prize there. And then in the 100-lap IMCA modified feature, the first 50 laps, just give it to Brady Biella. Brady Biella checked out. He had at one point had a 7-second lead over 2nd place Brandon Beckendorf, and Brady just dominated the first 50 laps. The car looked very good, very fast, and he was lapping at least halfway through the field before the halfway mandatory pit stop caution came out. That happened at lap 50, so all the cars did come up front in front of the grandstands for all the fans to see, and drivers put fuel in the car. Some drivers did elect to make changes, whether that was chassis or new tires or whatever they decided to do, but 5-minute pit stop at halfway, and then we waved the green flag once more, and right on that restart, though, Brendan Beckendorf, who was chasing his 200th IMCA modified victory, he took the lead right away on that restart, bringing Jeremy Keller with him, and him and Jeremy Keller had a brief battle. Jeremy was up there. He was challenging Beckendorf, But as the last 50 laps progressed, Beckendorf just kind of just expanded that lead, and Keller kind of faded back through the pack a little bit as the race went on. But Brandon Beckendorf was your Ironman 100 champion, taking home $5,000, and he did pick up his 200th IMCA modified victory. So that was a big, big win for Brandon Beckendorf, and he did it in a big, big way. So congratulations to our winners, Kelly Horner in the Hobby Stocks, Hunter Namagala in the IMCA Stock Cars, and Brandon Beckendorf in the IMCA Modifieds.
Yeah, so that was like when I was looking through the entry list and saw like Brandon Beckendorf coming over, I'm like, wow, that's a really good addition. I mean, you guys had several fun additions to that IMCA modified field.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It was fun. If you go back and look at the drivers that did show up, there was 5 different states represented. There was 2 countries represented, and it was really a who's who, for the most part, across the state of North Dakota and the Midwest. I mean, Joey Price came from Montana. That's a pretty cool draw. Beckendorf's a great mod driver out of Minnesota. You had Jason Walla. You had all the Minot, well, not all the Minot guys, but you had some very strong Minot drivers show up. You had all the guys out of Mandan, Bismarck, who are usually strong runners. And we had a guy from Iowa who missed his heat, which I think probably would have helped him if he made that. But I mean, there's a lot of fun names. And then you had Turnbull come down from Canada, which is a really nice addition as well. All in all, a really stout field of drivers, and that young Dayton Olheiser really was impressive again. Just really, he's showing me some stuff. I mean, the transition from a legend to a mod, I don't think is probably the easiest transitions out there, but he's done it quite well.
Excellent. Yeah, I was really, really pleased to see the representation in that modified field. And I think the one-day format works really well.
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Yep. I think it honestly works better. It's one, I mean, financially for a track, it probably isn't better, but for a driver and fan base type of perspective, it probably works out a lot better than multiple days for one payout. But yeah, it seemed like it really brought in some of the best in the area and some of the best of the Midwest.
I say makes the trip worth it for Brandon Beckendorf, who comes from basically southern Minnesota and makes that long haul over and comes away with 5,000. Not a bad payday for a night's work.
Yeah, I mean, he was really nice about in his, winner's circle speech, and apparently he really likes Dakota Speedway, and that's saying something. I mean, one of the better drivers in IMCA prefers racing at our track than, say, maybe some of his local tracks. But very interesting night on a whole.
And it was the Ironman 100 is a great lead into let's say the next week and a half or so of big money for the IMCA modified drivers across North Dakota. So I know John knows the tracks and the dates and all that good stuff of upcoming big money races for the IMCA modifieds. But it also gave a lot of good Dakota Classic modified tour fields, because a lot of the drivers who were there for the Ironman 100 will probably be back at will probably be on the tour, which is coming up in the middle of July. And when this podcast drops, there's a really, really good chance that registration might be open for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. So I'm saying modified drivers, stock car drivers, keep an eye out for that, because that is going to be coming up real soon.
Excellent. And last but not least, it was good that you guys finally got another race in. Been a hot second since you have seen racing action over in Mandan. So
okay, so we gotta talk about this really quick, because I thought it was kind of funny. So Becca and I were talking about weather, right? A little bit about Dakota Speedway being plagued with weather, which we have been this year quite a bit. But Becca's like, seriously, showers are popping up to the south of the track, which they were, but nothing was heavy and nothing hit the track, by any means on that either. But then the mod feature Beck and I are announcing in the mod feature, and we're just up there, going around and everything, and the fuel stop had happened. They were maybe in mid 60-ish for a lap area, somewhere in that range. And we saw a lightning strike in the north of the track, and Becca's like, Did you see that? I'm like, mm-hmm. Yep, this saw it as well. So we brought up our radars to see, and the rain was, it was still pretty far away from the track to the north, and it was moving away from the track. But it was just the idea is like, of course there would be something in the background when we're trying to finish up the racing night.
And I know we're gonna go into Jamestown and Saturday races next, but I was driving back from Jamestown last night as Jessup was taking
Yes,
the passenger seat, and there was some impressive lightning both to the west, northwest,
yes.
down to the south near Mobridge. As I was driving home, I was like, didn't know it was supposed to be raining tonight. Like I should have been looking for deer, but here I was just like trying to like, oh, I wonder if I can see another impressive lightning strike, or
I
I
mean,
didn't know that was
ex
out there.
no, same. I caught it once, and I was like, that wasn't what I thought it was. And I caught it again, and I was like, that is definitely what I think it is. And then I did the same thing back up. We got we got about maybe 20 miles out of town, and I looked to the south, and I was like, it is really lightning down there. So, yeah, on that stuff. And yes, I would agree with you though. Be sure to keep your eyes on the road for deer when you're traveling with Jessup. He is deer man.
I am. This is true. By the way, John, you're driving Thursday then.
So, no, I'm driving you up to Underwood on Tuesday, and you're driving me to Jamestown on
Oh,
Thursday.
I'm driving you to Underwood and you're driving to Jamestown.
Oh no, we've already got this planned out.
Okay, fine, fine, fine. I'll drive to you can drive Tuesday, I'll drive Thursday, and then you can drive Thursday. Yeah, Saturday.
That's my plan.
Perfect. Oh. Becca, we're using your car so we can plow through a deer with that.
See, Mason, I usually always get my way. It's nice.
Yeah, but John's still driving on Saturday, so
we have two versions of Rain Man on here, and we have Deer
hey,
Man. What's
hey,
Becca?
speaking of
The blonde
rain,
bomber.
we're taking another little, you know, sidetrack here because we
Here.
we do that a lot. No, no, keep this can keep
No,
going.
no,
Our
no.
fans will
Oh,
like
okay.
to hear this. Um, Probably just the move over segment. Um, did you see, John, that our one of our rain people went through Jamestown today and caused a bunch of flooding?
Yes. Yes. And did you see the amount of flooding that was over there from it? I mean,
Yes, it was on the
those storms
interstate.
have dumped inches of rain on Jamestown in the matter of like an hour. So, yes. So Jamestown's track will definitely probably have some moisture this weekend.
I just can't believe Kayla would do that too. An
I mean,
innocent track and an innocent town.
I can't believe that Kayla, well, let's back up here really quick. There's probably twofold of this story, right?
Well, probably, yes.
First fold is that Kayla was probably mad because the tour rained out in Glendon for the street stock tour tonight. So that was
True.
probably the first fold of this story, right? That
Hmm.
she was probably just very disappointed, so she just decided to use her powers in evil ways.
She had to
And
smite
then
somebody.
yes, and then the second thing is she missed the candy toss over at the Tri-County
Oh,
Speedway in Wishick on Thursday.
oh.
And it probably has still it's been one of those things that have probably has just been a thorn in her side. And she just decided that with the rain out and with the missing of the candy, she just had enough for the weekend.
But
Well, and there wasn't a candy toss in Fergus Falls either. So
oh,
Oh, that even's
oh,
worse then.
And
that's not
John,
good.
you've been coming to the racetrack with a nice little baggie of candy, and we're in Bismarck right now, and now Kayla is in Bismarck. Maybe she's just following the candy trail to your house.
Well, I've been prepared for when she shows up. I was just gonna throw some candy at her, so she would be a little more happier on a race night.
John, we also need to send out a warning and a caution to all of our friends out by Lisbon and Fargo
In Fort
because
Ransom.
Fort Ransom's got a big old tornado going around. And then
Yes.
and then sure as heck, Mason had to get in on the action. He was not happy that he could not rain anywhere out. I just all the storms are heading to you, Fargo.
well, by the time this comes out, they will have passed.
They could still be in lifeboats for how much rain is coming at them. Just
This
think, if
this
Taylor
this
could
is
flood the
true.
interstate by just driving past the town, your residency, I think, go to high ground. Get in apartments, get as high as you can. If there's a tornado, find a nice, happy middle of the building.
Yeah.
Mason,
Well,
Oh, this is true. Tell us, Becca. Tell us.
Mason's a quick 15-minute drive to Buffalo River, and they canceled tonight.
yeah, that forecast has been that way for an entire week, and I will be honest, I was not totally disappointed based on running a marathon.
See, John? See?
Yeah, see?
Greedy.
He's exactly. Keyword
Okay.
greedy.
He didn't feel like going to the races tonight, so he just made it rain.
I would have still gone, but it was I definitely could have used the rest. But I will transition. That's kind of a funny transition into my Friday night at I-94 because literally the first person I talked to when I come into the track was Nate Ranke, and it was a beautiful evening in Fergus Falls for the King of the Dirt, and there's just like some light clouds off to the west, and Nate walks up to me, he says, "If those clouds get any darker, we're gonna have a problem." I'm like, "Don't worry, I'm the only one of the rain people here, so we should be good for tonight." So then that appeased him. But anyways,
Have we come up with a anti-rain dance yet?
no,
No,
that's
but we need to do this because Mason
And
needs to perform this. I think both Mason and Kayla need to perform this together.
yeah, okay. Well, that ought to
We
be
will,
interesting.
if we need to, we will see them together probably on August 9th and 10th in Jamestown during the Street Stock Tour. It is a double header. We could definitely have them dance during that period of time. However, we'll make sure we have it done in a safe zone to where it's not in an area that somebody could easily fall and break their arm as a human. So we'll make sure that it is in a safe zone. There was a shout out. I want to give a shout out as well here while we're talking about some stuff to Josh Rourke. I'm very happy that Josh did not roll on Friday night during his heat race, the first heat race of the night in your hobby stock division at the Dakota Speedway, because Josh went off the track at the same point that Jessup fell when he broke his arm and cut down a tire and got up on two wheels and luckily kept it on all fours right by the guardrail by the front of the grandstand. So thank goodness he was okay there when he came off. Same cannot be said for Jessup, but at least Josh saved his car during that period of time.
Wow. You almost put a curse on that spot, Jessup.
That's what I do.
Well, anyways, before this gets more off track, I'll get into Friday's night results at the I-94 EMR Speedway, prelude to the King of the Dirt, Dick Johannick Memorial, and pretty good field of cars there both nights. We had 140 cars on that Friday night, and 6 classes of cars, starting off with the Midwest Modifieds, which actually was a really, really good race. And kind of the theme of the night was a little bit of aggressive driving. There was some hard racing, a little bit of rubbing in several of the racing classes. And Midwest Mods kind of kicked that off. You had Tanner and Taylor Bitson kind of up there at the start with Haley Dykoff. Corey Merriworth was up in there, and they were kind of exchanging leads back and forth. And it kind of settled into Haley was leading the first part of that race, and then Taylor Bitson, the 24, took the lead. And he looked like he was well on his way to win that race. And all of a sudden, his car shut off with like 2 laps to go coming out of corner 4, which is when I sent the message to our group that I needed the Becca catchphrase of "this changes everything." So that gave the lead to Haley Dykoff, and she went on to win on Friday night in the Wissota Midwest Modifieds in front of Matt Scow, Corey Stork from 11th, Ron Sauer 4th from 20th position, and Mike Nichols from 14th. So a lot of passing in the Midwest Modified feature. We move on to the Gen X late models, and they had a solid field of cars. They had 19 there on Friday night, and a good mix of drivers from South Dakota, Minnesota, and Tony Croninger, regular out of the Watertown, South Dakota area, started on the front row, and he was the dominant guy there, leading all the laps. Rick Shorter from Montevideo was in second. Brad Staples in third, first time that I've seen him out this year. And then Brody Croninger and Ben Walden rounded out your top 5. Moving on into the Wissota Street Stocks, the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour, a very good field of 38 cars showed up for that, and that had a lot of action. If you haven't seen the highlights of that yet, you might want to check it out because there's a lot to keep track of. Top 5 was just all all across the track. The track kind of slicked off by that point, so there was a lot of slide jobs being thrown, a lot of elbows being thrown. Yeah, Jeff Ekdahl, Kyle Dykhoff, Eric Riley, Ty Agan up there. They were exchanging lead back and forth. Justin Vogel was up there before he had a tranny let loose running in third. And so that kind of ended up being like a fiery flame. And so thankfully he was okay from that. But it kind of came down to a late race restart between Kyle Dykhoff, Eric Riley, and Jeff Ekdahl. The three kind of made contact with one another. Ekdahl ended up spinning out in front of the field, which basically left it up to a battle between Dykhoff, Riley, and Ty Agan, which Kyle Dykhoff made a husband-wife duo celebration for the night. He took the Street Stock Tour win in front of Eric Riley. Ty Agan was in third, coming up 12 spots from 15th. Andrew Hansen and Corey Dykhoff was your top five. Superstocks made a rare appearance at the I-94 Speedway. Trevor Nelson started on the pole, and he was the dominant guy there, leading every single lap in front of Dexton Cook. William Lund in the 54 was third, Dan Nasalki in fourth, and Ryan Satter moving up from the Street Stocks in the Superstock was your top five. Then in the modifieds, so at this point, the track was starting to take a little bit of rubber, and so passing was hard to come by in the mod feature. And Justin Fremming, starting on the front row, good luck catching him. He took off and left everybody in the dust, led every single lap there too. Joseph Thomas was second in the 6ST, followed by Jason Tennis, Ryan Gerke, and Jeremy Nelson, who's been racing a lot of open wheel stuff, USMTS stuff. He was over there in Fergus Falls for the weekend, got a top five. And then last but not least for the night, the Wissota Hornets with 19 cars strong. Matthew Dimon, who's been on a tear, started on the front row, and he led every single lap for his feature win. In front of Jeff Roner, those two have been exchanging wins all season long over in that area. Payson Patron from Malacca, Minnesota was in third. Chase Poirier was fourth, and Cole Campson was your top five finisher. And that was Friday night over at the I-94 Emar Speedway for night one of the Dick Johanna King of the Dirt. And so now we move on to our Saturday races, which the other three, other than myself, we were in Jamestown for a fun night over there. What all happened in Jamestown?
Becca, go ahead first.
There were no gender reveals this week in Jamestown.
Oh.
Oh,
No, it was just it was a complete 180 from the week prior where their opening night they saw over 150 cars. They still saw very nice car counts in Jamestown. It's just not what we typically see in Jamestown. They had 82 cars check into the back pit area on Saturday night. Which made for sure whatever. What was it?
83.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably 83 or something silly.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Okay, whatever. 83 cars checked into the back.
Good job, Jessa.
It was a very quick night of heat racing. We were done with our heat races by 8 o'clock, and we started our first feature by I'd say 8:20. And then just I'd say there's cautions here and there throughout the features, and we finished around 10 minutes after 10 o'clock. So it was a very just quick and a very relaxing night in Jamestown for their second race of the season, and I enjoyed it. I just remember John and I chatting throughout the race, like, oh, at this point on opening night we were still heat racing, or we're doing the B mains, and we actually finished all of our racing by 10 minutes after 10 o'clock, and I think we had just finished B main racing the week prior. So just a complete difference in race of the fields and whatnot on their second race of the season. So it was a good night of racing all around.
Well, and Jessup, you were in the flag stand once again, weren't you?
Yep.
Did you have as much entertainment as last week, or was it a little bit more calm from that point?
It was a lot calmer. One cool thing that happened was that I got to use the black flag.
He got to use the black flag.
And
There was a couple times the black flag was used last night that I remember.
Brian waved it more than I did, but I wanted to wave it once, and the guy wouldn't get off the track after Brian waved at him about 4 or 5 times. So then finally I grabbed it, and I don't know if he was looking up or he finally noticed that somebody was waving something. I was like, "Get out of here!" Yeah, go on now. Yeah, here, go to the pit. You cost 2. Go. Anyways, one interesting part that happened, and um, huge. I think this is a huge moment of the night that probably got overlooked or doesn't get really enough credit was when the hobby stock bomber feature happened. There was a car that lost the gas cap off of their gas tank, and the Jamestown officials spotted the gas cap on the track. They pulled all the cars to a complete stop on the front stretch, and they literally went trunk to trunk to figure out which car didn't have it, and they found it, what, probably in under a minute of searching, and
It was
I
very
thought
quick.
that was a highly overlooked but very safe, conscious, and important thing to do, and they performed it at a, I would say, a high level, and they did a really nice job.
You're quick and efficient while they did it.
Yep.
Well, excellent. Glad it was a little bit calmer of a night.
And they
Yeah,
had
it
their
was
new
definitely
concession stand food,
so
funnel
yeah,
fries. It was
yeah.
really good.
They have funnel cake fries. So basically, like, funnel cakes that have the powdered sugar on top of them during the fair. They have them in the form of a French fry. And
Yeah.
we had some at the end of the night, and they were really good. And honestly, Jessup, I had some with powdered sugar on them. Stacy actually had some in the pit side on the table with powdered sugar on them, and I had one of those. Those are really good because I looked at him. I said, Allison, I said, these are really good. And she's like, oh, but you got ones that are kind of like they've been in there for a while. She's like, you can tell they've been in there for a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I said, but they were still good. We didn't have any powdered sugar on them or anything else. But the ones on the other side with the powdered sugar on them that were fresh, those are really good.
Mm.
So, but then they also have pizza pockets back.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
nice.
Pizza
That's a
pockets are
popular
also back.
one.
Yeah,
And that
that
was
is a
another one
fan
that went away
favorite.
during COVID. They couldn't get those in and stock during COVID time frame.
Did we lose Johnson?
So, but okay, so my update. So overall, pretty decent night. Um Track conditions way smoother. They worked out the bumps that were in turns 1 and 2 from the opening night. 3 and 4 was really smooth. 1 and 2 had just a little bit of a ridge more towards the top. Nothing that affected anybody from like a bouncing perspective or anything else from there. So yeah, so 1 and 2 held up really nice. From Jessup's view in the flag stand, you could tell there were just a couple spots that that they'll get worked out for this upcoming week for the Gumkey. Track was definitely drier than it was on opening night, just because they tried to make sure that the bumps were out of the track, especially before this weekend with the Gumkey race. So, they want the track in the best shape possible as well for any race night, but for sure for the upcoming weekend with the big money show for the mods, the Legends Tour, and all of that. But overall, like Becca said, 83 cars. Bombers, 18 cars. The feature winner on that one was Travis Ettinger. He had problems the first night, got involved in a wreck. He was pretty much kind of probably the class of the field, but the guy that we were all watching more than anything else was the guy that won on Friday in Mandan, Kelly Horner. So Kelly plans on coming over to Jamestown majority of the Saturdays this year, and he started 15th in the field because he spun out actually by himself in the heat race, got it going, never had a caution, but basically started tail end of the field. So he started 15th and worked his way to second. He actually passed for second coming to the white flag. They went 3 wide for second between Dylan Steele on the high side. Kelly went through the middle and Asher Williams was on the bottom. Kelly went to second, and I would have been very curious to see what would have happened if it would have been like maybe even just another couple laps because Ettinger was about a second ahead. Kelly caught him and was only 2 car lengths behind him going into a 3 and 4 that final lap. So I was like, well, that would have been very interesting to see what would happen because Travis was running more towards down on the bottom of the track and Kelly was more on the high side. So, but again, great run to Travis. Congratulations, great run to Kelly, finishing in second. Slingshots, Jackson Carroll, he won in that race. That race was very kind of uneventful on that one too. Reed Ketterling had some problems with his car. They were a lot calmer this week from the slingshot perspective than they were last week, and it was Jackson Carroll that ended up winning with Aubrey Ettinger in second. So kind of a repeat of your first and second place from last week. They only had 4 cars this week in the slingshots. I expect that class to grow as the season goes on as well, because it typically does towards the end of the year as more kids get involved into the racing side. The next class up on the docket was the Midwest Modifieds. They had 17 cars and they had some travelers from South Dakota, so it was nice to see some of those guys come up. And in that feature event, Zach Reinke, similar to his brother Nate Reinke, Zach started on the pole and never looked back. He was definitely the class of the field. He had the fastest car in his heat race. He was clicking off the fastest lap times in the future. It was Zach that won. Jarrett Klein came from seventh to finish second. He passed Tanner Tice with a few laps to go, and Jarrett picked up the Coogan in second. In the Legends race was a very entertaining feature. So by that time, the track had definitely gotten fast through the middle part of the speedway. They had done track prep during intermission, kept it smooth, kept it pretty quick. And it was an entertaining battle up front between Joshua Wiest, who led some of that lap, as well as Gus Jensen. Gus Jensen was leading a couple laps. Gus looked the best that he had looked all year so far on Saturday night. He definitely had the car set up. He finished, I think, seventh overall, but he ran a majority of that race in the top five. Just a couple cautions that came out that race, nothing big for wrecks or anything else on there. Yes,
That's
Mason.
the Wednesday Night Live bump.
Nice. So the interesting part of the whole race though was watching kind of the battle between some of the West drivers and some of the East drivers. That was probably the most interesting part of the whole night because you have some of the guys from Mandan that run regularly, right? That come over to Jamestown each week. You have Donovan Wiest, you have Preston Martin, and those two drivers were right up front during that feature event, which they always are. And then from the east side of the state this time around, you had Colin Compson, who's a regular in Jamestown, that comes over each and every week with his brother Xander. Xander had a very nice run in the Midwest Modified again this past week. Looked really good in that for his second time in that car in Jamestown. And then you also had Evan Hendrickson, who made his debut in Jamestown this year on Saturday night, and Ty Wilkie, who came over with that sharp looking 72. That is a really, really, really nice orange on that car this year. But Ty and Preston were going at it the whole feature. They were battling back there for about fourth, fifth, sixth, and sixth the whole entire feature. And it was a very, very interesting race as part of the battle back there to watch Preston and Ty go at it because two past track champions, national champions that were going at it here as they're going to be a threat. A lot of the big money shows this year, and even on the Legends Tour, I can see those two drivers definitely being strong. But up front, it was Joshua Wiest, and it was Evan Hendrickson who started deep in the field. He started back in ninth, and he was slowly working his way to the front. Donovan Wiest was up there. Ty Olson, I have to give Ty a lot of credit here. Ty has had a great start to his season, especially over in Jamestown. He was top five the first night when they had 35 legends. Saturday night, we only had 15. We were down a little bit in car count on Saturday night, as a lot of drivers are trying to get ready for the Legends Tour. Plus, Dickinson Open and had a great car count in Dickinson of 21 legends. And Ty made several bids for the lead in that feature event, ended up third overall. So great run to Ty overall within that feature event. But it was Donovan Wiest who worked his way up to second. He was right on the bumper of Joshua Wiest, but Evan Hendrickson was right behind them. They had a restart. Evan got to the high side and then did a crossover to the bottom on Joshua Wiest, took the lead and ran away for his first Jamestown feature win. So good job to Evan. Evan won. It was Donovan in second, Ty in third, Preston fourth, and Ty Wilkie in fifth. So really, really, really nice battles up front between those top five drivers. But yeah, the Legends feature went off without a hitch. They were pretty much they were cruising around that quarter mile on Saturday. Then we went to the street stocks. They did a little bit of track prep before the street stock feature, made the track a little bit wider, and Jordan Johnson was using a little bit higher line. Brian Hansen Jr. was using more kind of the middle to the bottom line. And those two drivers were side by side for several laps before Brian Hansen Jr. took over the lead. And then he had to fend off Dustin Erickson. And Dustin probably looked like to me, he had one of the strongest cars on Saturday night. He was definitely moving through the field. Dustin was able to use the high line, was able to use the bottom line. And he went to the bottom of Brian coming out of turn number 4 for the checkered. But Brian Hansen Jr. picked up his first win over in Jamestown in the street stock division and looked really good. I also have to give a shout out to Mike Mund. He got third on Saturday night. Mike's had a very nice start to his season. He's had some really strong runs so far to start his campaign here for 2024. So good job for that with Mike Mund in the top 3. And just a good night overall from the street stocks perspective. And then the mods, it was heartbreak. So by the time the mods had come out, they did a little bit of watering in the bottom, just a little bit on top, but the track had definitely taken some rubber in the middle. You could definitely tell it was taking rubber in the middle. And Scott had taken the lead. Scott Gardner started on the pole, took the lead. looked really strong. Him and Colin Hibden kind of stretched out from the field, and Scott was just kind of cruising along. And a couple of the cars that were in front of him towards the end of the field got together in turn two. Scott was only a couple of maybe not even, a second away from them. He spun, but ended up getting into the back, basically hitting one of the lap cars in the back of the car like this, and he broke. He broke several things in the back end of that car and had to be towed into the pit area, and that ended his future. After that, it was a battle between Colin Hibden up front, and Colin pretty much went and kind of cruised away. However, Matt Duscher was catching Colin. Matt Duscher was closing in on him. He's a rookie in the mods this year. He's run a mod here or there throughout the last couple of years. He ran a Midwest mod, but he went in to turns 3 and 4, and he was basically about 2 car lengths behind Colin. Went into 1 and 2 with about 5 to go and broke completely. Just I don't know if he snapped something or anything else, but he broke and went up the track, pulled it off the track. There was a wreck behind him though that happened, and there was a caution that came out on the restart. John Carell was moved himself up to second, finished in the second spot. Jaden Chris was in fourth. John Nord worked his way up to third, and Josh Eberhart rounded out your top 5 in his season debut as well, getting ready for next week's Gumke Memorial. And like Becca said, we got done at 10:10. Not really anything from a major wreck perspective with rollovers or anything else. I mean, obviously a couple cars like Scott will get his car put back together before next week, but besides that, it was a pretty smooth overall night, and I can't wait now for the Gumke next week because I know with the rain they had today and with the weather the way it's going to be throughout the week, they'll do a great job getting that track into tip-top shape here for the Gumke race next week for the mods. And the mods will actually go through and they will have 2 sets of heats that'll be happening on Saturday night, and then they'll go and they'll do passing points, and they'll have $2,222 for the winner and $122 for the non-qualifiers and $222 for the starters of the future events. So again, very good, nice payout for the modifieds.
Nice. It's good that they kind of had a nice turnaround as far as like track went and like smoothing out turns 1 and 2. I know that was the problem spot last week. And it's nice to see that hard work pay off and moving in the right direction. I'm sure they want to continue to improve on it. Of course, that just comes with more weeks and more time behind the Packers and all that stuff. So great to hear that Jamestown went well.
Well, and the biggest thing too on that, Mason, and I think a lot of drivers will agree with me, a lot of people that have done track prep too, is it's when you start the year off with the rough track, it's really hard to get the track good for basically the rest of the year. It's hard to get away from ruts, especially even for maybe like a couple of months. It might even take like almost a whole season to get that directly out of the track. So they worked a lot to get that out of the track, in making sure that it would be a little bit drier so it didn't get soft and that it actually had some time just to dry out and get kind of padded down a little bit into there. So now with track prep, you can tear that up, you can get it moisturized now and get basically back to a smooth surface that pretty much, Mandan's known for being smooth almost every single week. Jamestown has been known for being a smooth track as well, not nearly to the degree as Mandan, but also known for a lot of those track conditions.
Yep, every track kind of goes through its ups and downs as far as like track conditions go. I mean, Granite City is a prime example. First week was super rough, and then in the next race they had complete 180. So I mean, it is possible, and everyone's got to be a little patient. Things will come around. They'll continue to work at it, and things will improve as the year goes on, especially when we get some weather that also cooperates with good track prep. Anything else? Jessup, did you look like you had something you wanted to add at all?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Hard work out by Tim and his crew to get the track going and getting it right back to where it needs to be. And I mean, easier said than done saying fix the track and not giving any true solutions to track related issues. I mean, so for him to get out there and get at least the hole going into one fixed had to be a monumental task. So hats off to everybody over there, and Tim, and I think Joanne was out in the tractor quite a bit. So the queen of North Dakota dirt track racing, her royalty was in her. What would be a good name for the track?
Getting back to her prime.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But tip of the hat
Glory
to
days.
all you
Reliving
guys.
her glory days.
Sure, John. Sure.
I'll finish off the track packer report Saturday night at the King of the Dirt 994 once again. 157 cars this time around. We lost a few cars from different classes because a lot of other tracks were racing, including Ogilvy, Madison finally started their season up. So lost a few, but gained a few here and there. Addition of the sort of late models, NRA late models, and they had a really strong field of 33 cars show up for their show. So very stellar representation in the late models, and 31 in the street stocks for the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour once again. Getting into the results, Midwest Modifieds kicked off the program once again. Excellent race to kick it off. A lot cleaner racing on Saturday night versus Friday night. And Midwest Mods, like, the track was really fast for them, and it didn't slow down too much. But you could run bottom, middle, top. A lot of great movers and shakers there. Corey Stork started up front to start that thing off, and he led the majority of that race. I only had, I believe, 1 or 2 cautions in that race, so not a lot of opportunities for drivers to move up from deeper in the field. But slowly but surely, that 71 of Nate Ranke was tracking down Stork, and they got into some lap traffic with just a few laps to go, and Nate was able to kind of catch him. They exchanged the lead a couple times through a couple of sliders, and Nate had to get one last slider and run out of turn 4 to get the King of the Dirt win in the Minnesota Midwest Modified. So you can imagine you've probably seen Nate Ranke in victory lane, very ecstatic to say the least. And he was talking to me before victory lane, or before the races even started, because I was actually the victory lane announcer once again in Fergus Falls. So that was fun. And he's like, I'm going to see you in victory lane. I'm going to make sure of it. And so he backed it up and got a huge win once again over at I-94. Corey Stork ended up second. Matt Scow finished in third. Corey Merworth in fourth. And Ron Sauer was your 5th place finisher. Street stocks were second on the card on Saturday night. Very strong field once again. Track was still had a lot of moisture in it, but definitely the groove to be in was the bottom. And so things sorted out pretty quickly once the drop of the green flag started, and they only had 1 caution. So again, not a ton of opportunities for people deeper in the field. But once again, similar top 3 from the previous night. Eric Riley, Kyle Dykoff, and Ty Ager were the ones battling up at the front. Eric pretty much had that in control, made a little bit of a slip up in turn 1 on the last lap, and Kyle got underneath him briefly, but Eric was able to recover, and he claimed his first Street Stock Tour win since 2020, the inaugural year when he racked up quite a few tour wins. Dykoff finished off a good weekend in second. Egan was third. Andrew Hansen from Wisconsin was fourth. And Kyle Anderson, who outside of a win at Brown County Speedways, had kind of a meh season to start off with. So good top 5 for the 59 from Jamestown. Then moving on to, I'll just move to the Gen X late models. They had another solid field.
Okay, I haven't looked at results. Is it Ben Walden versus the field?
Well, you could have done Ben Walden versus the field. By the time the Gen X late models ran, because they were second to last, the track had kind of rubbered up for them.
So it was not Ben Walden. So
it was
the
not
field
Ben
would
Walden.
win.
So
this should be a weekly segment. Ben Walden versus the field.
That would be an interesting segment. Very
We
true.
should keep a tally on that. That'd be fun.
Would be interesting. Well, for the winner in the Gen X late models was a gentleman by the name of John, I believe you pronounce it Winge, from Harrisburg, South Dakota. And first career win in the Gen X late models. He started on the pole, had to maneuver through lap traffic and hold off the 27 of Jarrett Hoos. But yeah, he came up into victory lane. He's like, yeah, this is my first career win. I'm like, well, to win the King of the Dirt, that's a pretty good first feature win. So big congrats out to him. Jared Hoos was second. Blake Bolins was third. Larry Samuelson in fourth. And Bodie Croninger from Watertown was fifth. Now I remember who was after the street stocks. It was the late models. NRA late models, again, like I said, 33 cars showed up, an excellent field of drivers. Fun battle up front to start with between Dave Moss and Don Shaw. You had Tyler Peterson, Dustin Strand in the mix. So just a bunch of heavy hitters to start things off. Dave Moss kind of checked out to an early lead, and kind of they were running mainly the top part of the track. Shaw was kind of like within a few car lengths, and Moss pretty much had it in control until his left front decided to leave. Not sure exactly what happened, but it just all of a sudden you just see a tire just flying through the air.
Question: Is this like a norm for late models at I-94 to lose their wheels?
I don't know if it's for late models, but I know Dave Moss has had some issues with tires falling off in the past. And I know John has been there for one, like the Wissota 100 Parade of Champions.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It seems like this is a reoccurring theme.
Yeah. it's just because I was in the infield and all of a sudden you look over and it's like, there goes Dave Moss's car straight toward the wall. And then you see the tire just flopping away. And it's like, okay.
You can't park there, Dave.
No, I got there's leaving the left front at home and then the left front just wanting to go home. And that's apparently what happened.
Well, Scott Bloomquist once won a B-Maid to get to the feature with only 3 wheels. So maybe Dave was trying to one-up him.
Maybe he had that race pretty well in hand. Well, I mean, there's still a long way to go, but it would have taken a little bit to get around him. So Don Shaw inherited the lead from that point, but then TPO got a restart and snuck around him. And once TPO gets out in front, it's usually curtains for the rest of the field. And so TPO wins the Wissota Late Models. That is actually his first King of the Dirt win at I-94 Speedway. So big congrats out to the one TPO. Dustin Stratton actually got around Don Shaw late for second. Then Shane Edgerton was fourth. And Cole Schill, who was one of your B-Main winners from 17th, moved all the way up to the top 5. So nice. Great one for Cole Schill there.
So you talked about TPO getting a good restart. I was just thinking about that because he's usually good on the restarts, right?
Yes.
Who do you think is a better restart driver? Travis Hagan or Tyler Peterson? Because I over the last couple of years,
really good.
I would say Travis has got to be one of the top drivers in the nation on restarts because he is lethal for that.
I would actually give the nod to TPO because I feel like Travis does a really good job like changing his lineup, especially when he's chasing down the leaders. Like he changes up his line. He's able to kind of see what the leader is doing. And then he's able to kind of like play it a little bit better and kind of like time it out a little bit. But he's really good at restarts too. That'd be a good thing to kind of keep an eye on as far as restarts go from here on out. So yeah, that was late models. Really good race for the late models as well. Super Stocks was also a really good race. That initially had like a green flag look to it. It was going to go caution free the entire way with Dexton Cook kind of like on his way to victory. Had a car spin out just in front of him just before taking the white flag. So they had a green-white checker initially, and then they made, I believe, 1 lap and they had another caution. So then they went to a basically green and white at the same time and then a checker flag. So a 1-lap shootout. So with the 1-lap shootout, anything goes. And it was Trevor Nelson who had won the previous night through a slider in turn 3, cleared Dexton out of 4. And as he was coming off the wall, they made contact coming to the line. And Trevor ended up edging Dexton Cook at the line by, I believe, 5 or 6 hundredths of a second. It was really, really tight. And I didn't realize being in the infield, you can't hear the announcer necessarily. So I didn't realize it was a 1-lap shootout. So I was just like, oh, there's the checkered flag. That was the finish. No wonder he threw a massive slider into turn 3 on the last lap. But Dexton Cook was second, Dennis Salke in third, Jordan Hankemeyer in fourth, and William Lund was your 5th place finisher. Wissota Modifieds, a lot of action there. Groove was definitely on the high side. Dusty Bitson was basically the guy out in front for the majority of that race. Tyler Peterson, once again, tracking him down, was using a slightly higher line, was trying to dime in the corners to get around him, finally got around him late in the race. And as he got around in turn 3 and 4 with just a few laps to go, his car shut off and he ended up going into the wall, climbing it, and actually rolling over after Chase taking the lead. So very unfortunate circumstances for Tyler Peterson going from hero to 0, but thankfully he was okay. The car doesn't look all that bad, but definitely kind of a damper on the night for Tyler Peterson. But from there, Dusty Benson, the 10X, ended up getting the feature win in front of Ryan Gerke, Jason Tennis in 3rd, Joseph Thomas in 4th, and Jeremy Nelson once again in the top 5. And I believe the last class that I haven't covered was the Wissota Hornets. Chase Poirier, who dominated that race. Caution with 4 to go. I'm sure he didn't want to see with Jeff Roner, who's been dominated over there starting from 12th, had moved up into 2nd. That didn't matter, though, as the 35 machine cruised out to a few car length lead by the end of the race, and he claimed his first King of the Dirt. Jeff Roner second, Cole Campson in third, Christian Cass in fourth, and Andrew DeNoble, part of the Never Alone camp with the 988 cars, was fifth. And so very fun night of racing, fun weekend over at I-94 Speedway for the Dick Johanna King of the Dirt once again, and it was fun to be in the infield doing victory lane interviews. So that is this week's Track Pack Report, and we will move on into what's upcoming next in this state of North Dakota with Mr. Dakota Dirt, as I am almost fearing for my life based on the way it looks outside right now. But take it away, Jessup.
John?
Oh, yes, Dakota Dirt. Everybody from a racetrack, tracks, drivers, everyone. If you want your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, and much more, you have to check out Dakota Dirt. Again, they have so much more than just results and schedules. They also have news articles and weather forecasts, which are very valuable these days. And even a whole entire schedule for not even just the state of North Dakota, but even surrounding tracks that are in our network area. So again, check them out. Dakota Dirt. They are on social media platforms and at dakotadirt.org.
Thank you, John. And Mason, I hope you survive, but it looks like the rapture's coming for you as your rain powers have overtaken your town.
I mean, not only is it getting dark just because the sun is going down, but it's actually getting decently dark.
Are we saying greenage?
I don't see any green, but it's a weird shade of gray and blue.
All right, well, let's get through this before Mason disappears so he can edit and put this out on like the burning of the episode before his whole apartment gets swept away. This week, it's going to be a very busy week. You got the Tougher Than Dirt Tour and the Legendary Tour kind of hooking up, and they're going to have a lot of racing here this week. Tougher Than Dirt Tour kicks it off at the McLean County Speedway. Pretty much a full show on top of three excellent fields of cars for each of the classes, the Legends, the Hobby Stocks, and the Sport Mods. It's going to be a great night out there at McLean County. That's going to be June 4th. The 5th, they travel on over to the Southwest Speedway over in Dickinson. Another great night of racing. Then the tour goes up kind of northwest over to Williston. The Legendary Tour, I don't think joins them for that. I think they take a night off.
Yes.
And Williston's going to have a great night of racing for that too. Night 4 of the Tougher Than Dirt will go up to the Estevan Motor Speedway, just north of the border, whereas the Legendary Tour will be going over to the Dakota Speedway, and River Cities and Red River will be racing as well. Red River has the Bison Battle, big time mod racing going on for you IMCA mod fans, so get out and support those tracks. Then Saturday, Tougher Than Dirt heads on over to the Thunder Mountain Speedway. That's going to be a big show for those guys. Those guys have been doing some awesome work over at Thunder Mountain. So any race fans who want to support over there, that'd be a great night of racing. The Legendary Tour heads on over to the Jamestown Speedway for the Don Gumpke Racers Memorial. This is the 5th year, isn't it, John?
Year number 5.
And you know, folks, a wise person once told me anything worth its while lasts up to 5 years and then continues on. And a lot of racing events usually stop right before that 5th year. And if you can make it over that hump, it usually means it's a pretty significant event, tour, or race. And this is the 5th year, so a lot of good racing to take place at the Jamestown Speedway. Saturday also sees the Devil's Lake Speedway in action. And then Sunday, it is the final night of the Tougher Than Dirt Tour, and that will be taking place up at the Nodak Speedway. And I believe the Legendary Tour ends up over in Cheyenne. Nope, they end in Jamestown. My bad. That's on me. But Cheyenne is
The
racing, is it?
Legendary Tour ends in Minot.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, Legendary Tour ends at the same spot the
Oh,
Top
crap.
Legendary
It
Tour
goes
does.
up north.
Yep.
Why did I think Cheyenne?
They do. Cheyenne does race on Sunday, though.
Yeah, I got a
Yes.
couple notes definitely mixed up there, but whatever. Moving on. That is the weekend. Definitely a lot for you race fans to get out and see. A lot of good races, a lot of opportunities to support your local tracks and drivers, and, just get out there and have some fun.
Excellent. I'll give the schedule for outside of the state of North Dakota a little bit more. Starting on Thursday, Wheel Jam down at Dakota State First Speedway in Huron. They have 2 nights, Thursday on June 6th, and then also on the 8th of June, Saturday. So a couple good big races on tap for them. The Norman County Raceway over in Ada is starting their season off on Thursday the 6th, and Rice Lake is also racing on the 6th. Friday, June 7th, Brown County Speedway, along with the Red Cedar Speedway in Menominee, and the Fiesta City Speedway is hosting night 1 of 2 for the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour and Structural Buildings Minnesota Late Model Challenge Series. Moving on to the 8th, besides Dakota State Fair Speedway, Fiesta City, we have Brainerd and Ogilvy. Ogilvy Raceway is having the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars joining them for their program, and Viking Speedway having their first Kids Night. Sunday the 9th, Bemidji Speedway continuing in action, Casino Speedway back in action, and the Redwood Speedway will be racing the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour as well. So plenty of big races taking place. I think I'd have to double check. Is the Fastlane Super Stock Series also starting this week as well?
Let me look.
Well, you look that up, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of big racing taking place this weekend. Now that we're in the month of June, we're past the beginning stages of May. Most all tracks have opened up by this point, and hopefully we get some good weather after this stint of whatever's coming through.
Another big race happening across the nation this week. It's the 30th annual Dirt Late Model Dream over at the Eldora Speedway.
That it is. I just saw someone share a post for that, so that'll be another big week for late models. After coming off the big deal modified race, it goes from one big race in one class to another. So
I believe I saw that Sammy Mars has signed up for that race. So that's a pretty impressive jump for him. So hopefully he has a good weekend over there. Represents our area well.
Yeah, Mason, you were correct because the Fastline Super Stock Series was supposed to start on this past Saturday, June 1st at ABC Raceway, but they had to end up canceling because of weather. So they do start then on Thursday night, June 6th at Rice Lake. So Rice Lake will have the opener. Then they go to Red Cedar Speedway on the 7th, and the 8th goes to the ABC Raceway. They were back to the ABC Raceway on the 8th, and then the 9th, they will actually be hitting up the Proctor Speedway over there in Minnesota. So they'll be having a 4-day swing here this weekend as well.
Perfect. So definitely some good racing action no matter what class you are a fan of or a driver of. So be awesome. We will display the white flag and give a shout out once again to our good friend Brody Carlsrud in the B1 IMCA stock car. Got a couple races underneath his belt once again this weekend and still performing at a pretty high level. I know he wants to get a feature win here pretty soon, but moving in the right direction. Be sure to check out his podcast if you haven't, The Real Deal with B1. Talks with a lot of the drivers, talks about his racing going on so far in 2024. Sure, he's got an episode coming up, kind of talking about coming out of the early season struggles, and be sure to give him some support on Facebook and various podcasting platforms. And so, who wants to go first for wins of the week?
I will go first finally.
Go ahead, John.
So I'll go first. We always let Becca go first, but I'll take it over this week. So okay, so I've got three wins of the week. My first win of the week, I am going to take it away from Becca. It is going to be Brandon Beckendorf. I have to congratulate him on his 200th career win in the IMCA Modifieds. That is pretty cool. We have seen Brandon up here once before at the Dakota Speedway. We've seen him up here multiple times at the Jamestown Speedway for the Stock Car Stampede, which he has won that race as well. But it's just cool to see him up here competing with us on a local level. So congratulations to Brandon on that 200th career win, and love the paint scheme on his car. It's a very sharp design. So my next win of the week, I have to give it over to, I'm going to go wingless sprint route. I'm going to give it to Miles Tomlinson. Miles had 2 races this week with the wingless sprint, and he won both of them with that class. So congratulations to Miles. A great way to start off his 2024 as well here with his last couple of races, and he's had a nice start to his season, and he's going to be hitting up some new tracks with the wingless sprints here this year, which will be kind of cool to see here in the July timeframe. They'll be hitting Jamestown actually on July 20th. My final win of the week, and I am going to give it over to Brian Hansen Jr. I'm going to give it to him. His first career win, he had to battle hard for it with a great side-by-side run with him and Jordan Johnson. Both of those two drivers were looking for their first win in Jamestown, and they both gave it their all. He took over the lead. He held off Dustin Erickson, the defending track champion, to get it, and I have to give it to Brian Hansen Jr.
Excellent way to start off wins of the week. Jessup, Rebecca, did you want to go next, or I got a few already lined up?
Go ahead, Becca.
All right. So my first win of the week goes to Robbie Roselli. He picked up the feature victory up at the McLean County Speedway on Thursday, then went over to the Southwest Speedway on Saturday, where he found victory lane once again. And I've been following the Nodex Speedway during our podcast tonight. He just won at the Nodex Speedway just a few minutes ago. So 3 wins in a row on the past 4 days for Robbie Roselli. So congratulations, Robbie, on that weekend sweep practically.
And Becca, a great way for him to get ready for the Tougher Than Dirt Tour, because he'll be following that this upcoming week as well.
Yes. All 3 tracks are on the Tougher Than Dirt Tour, Tougher Than Dirt Tour schedule. So he's going to be awfully strong at each and every track that he shows up to. So congratulations, Robbie. My next win of the week goes to Kelly Horner. He finished runner-up at the Jamestown Speedway last Saturday at their season opener. He went over to the Dakota Speedway last Friday, where he found victory lane. And then on Saturday, it looked like bad luck struck him. He ended up looping it on his own in his heat race at the Jamestown Speedway, started deep in the field in his feature race, and drove to the front where he finished second at the Jamestown Speedway. So the way he's running over in Jamestown, I would imagine that first win will be knocking on the door soon. But just a great string of runs for Kelly Horner, especially since he's been racing for a very, very long time in numerous racing divisions. And he's always been one of those drivers that just seems to get snake bitten or, just bad luck all the time. And it's so good to see him finally have a string of just good runs for him. So congratulations, Kelly, on that. Just running really strong right now. And then my third and final win of the week goes to Dante Martin, who found victory lane over the Southwest Speedway on Saturday night. I think that's his first win ever. No legend. So that's a big deal for Dante, and I'm sure that's going to be a big confidence boost for him moving forward. So congratulations to Dante Martin.
Excellent set of wins there too, Becca. Do you want to save Jessup for last, or should I go next? All right, I will go next. My wins have a family theme to them. So my first win of the week is going to go to the brothers of Zach and Nate Ranke for winning on the same night on Saturday, with Nate winning at I-94 and Zach winning in Jamestown. And actually, Zach had a really good weekend as he won on Thursday in Michigan. So great night to have matching wins across the region. So that's my first win of the week. Second win, going back to I-94, has to go to the husband-wife duo Kyle and Haley Dykoff, winning on the same night. I know Eric Riley was like, that's the first time a husband and wife has won on the same night. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure that maybe it's happened at some point somewhere across the country, but as far as in this region, unless John has a Rain Man set that he wants to try to pull up, it's been a long time since I've seen something like that. So I know they're close to doing it at Alexandria the week before, so it was cool to see them do it on Friday night as well. And then my third win of the week, we're going to go down to Miller, South Dakota, and give a shout out to the Johnsons and the Midwest Modifieds of Lauren, Lane, and Luke. They finished 1, 2, 3 in the Wissota Midwest Mod feature. And so that was a really cool finish for them, getting all 3 of them in the podium for that race and to kick off their season, I believe, over at the Miller Central Speedway. So those are my 3 wins of the week as well. Jessup, that leaves you.
Ah,
He has to bring out his notepad.
he actually took notes. He must have read the agenda.
Be prepared for both this podcast and the Western Roundup most of the afternoon. So
Well, I am ready to give you guys the eastern side of our range people. And let's start off. I'm going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 I would like to go after today. I will start off with Andrew Inman as he won the modifieds over at the Hibbing Speedway. Now, why this is significant, this is Andrew's first year in Wissota Modifieds. And at Hibbing, currently, he has 2 firsts and a third. So that's very impressive. The second one I would have is Cade Diller winning the big deal down at Mississippi Thunder. That's 100,000 to win. He won it from the pole, but still a very significant race for modifieds across the nation. And there was it was a who's who of drivers, including late model drivers and mod and everything in between. So Kay Dillard would get one. And the next 2, we talk about a family theme. I've been kind of watching them. They are more of the USRA field of modifieds. But Jim Chisholm and Joe Chisholm I think that's really impressive. They got 2nd and 7th down at the big deal race. And what makes it even more impressive, Jim is 21. All right. Joe is 17. So to be going out and going elbows up against some of the best in the business, that's really impressive. And finally, the last person we're going to give a shout out to is Kennedy Swan. 2nd year, she's super young. 2nd year of Wissota Mod Racing. And to qualify, again, the same type of deal with Jim and Joe Chisholm. That's really impressive. So those are my wins of the week. And tip of the hat to all of you mod drivers out there, especially you Wissota mod drivers, making some waves down at the big deal.
Yeah, I was glad you mentioned Kennedy Swan because that was on my list too. Because I think she was the only Wissota car that made that final feature.
Yep. She qualified really well in her prelim night and made it in, and there you have it. That's all you gotta do.
Absolutely.
Only beat some of the best in the business. Not a big deal.
Out of 145 pretty stout cars there. So, any closing thoughts before we wrap up episode 12?
Mason, don't die.
Yeah, Mason, stay safe.
So far, so good. I don't know how I'm going to get my McDonald's after this. I might have to wait a little bit. With that, that'll do it for episode 12 of season 3 for the Track Packers podcast. Be sure, as always, to like, share, and comment. We love seeing the new faces and new people checking out our content. Spotify, Google, and Apple is where you can find us at the listening platform, and also YouTube and Facebook. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, Issac Hot Sauce Sondrol, and The Real Deal with B1 Brody Carlsrud. A lot of big racing taking place early this week, so at some point, we will see you out there packing the track.